right, what is going on, everybody? Zain here with Everything Virtual, joined by Ronnie. Ronnie, how you doing, man?
Pretty well. Yeah, been a long week, so I know it's been a long week for you as well.
Yeah,
So
I know. And we've been terrible. We didn't do another Game Talk episode this week, but we wanted to get back to you guys with the news. Honestly, it's we want to make sure we're spending significant times in the titles that we are playing. And whether it's a timing thing, schedule, whatever the case is, we just haven't been able to. We just haven't felt comfortable in doing that, or at least I haven't. Maybe Ronnie's
yeah,
been always
I
back here, but
I've been dabbling. I mean,
yeah.
not to give like too many spoilers for whatever our next Game Talk episode's going to be, but I've been messing around with a HOTAS, so like
Okay, okay.
a
I
joystick and throttle setup.
I
So
definitely want to make sure that we talk about that in depth. So let's save that for the next Game Talk. Hopefully this coming weekend / Monday.
sounds good to me.
And yeah, all right. So let's dive into the news. We got a couple of actually significant pieces of news, significant changes across the landscape. Um, I mean, let's start with Oculus and the
Yep.
Oculus Go. Big thing here, they formally and officially announced that the Oculus Go will be discontinued. I don't know the date on that, but let me go ahead and pull up this screen. And while I do that, this isn't really surprising.
No, it's not
Like,
surprising to me. To be
uh,
honest, I was almost surprised it hadn't happened sooner. But it
okay,
was also
it's
kind of
actually no longer even available. So there you
yeah,
go.
it was kind of crazy to me how abrupt it was, just in terms of like I don't know if I don't think I had missed anything. Like I don't think that there were any kind of prior announcements saying that it was going to be phased out or anything
Mhm.
like that. It was literally, I mean, I was just at Micro Center a few days ago and there were all kinds of Oculus Go's like at the store. And then like a couple days later, all of a sudden the hot news item is Oculus Go discontinued. And I would imagine those are all taken off the shelf now. Like it's kind of crazy.
I mean, I don't know that they would be taken off the shelf because I'm sure they still want to sell. My and this is all speculation, guys. So I don't know what the business practices are, but if there was a strategy that I would think could potentially be employed is don't tell anyone that you're going to discontinue something because then either
Yeah.
people will lose interest. They know that
Yeah.
there won't be any support
No,
on
you're
there.
right. I mean, who's gonna buy something
Yeah,
that's yeah?
right.
I no, I agree.
Or it'll be discounted so much because basically your retail partners will have nothing to do with it, right? Like it's just like,
Yeah,
oh, okay, well nobody really wants these. Let's put it on discount. Retailers lose out on that.
yeah,
So I just figure maybe they just stopped producing them at some point, and
yeah,
now that they are at a place maybe where they're starting to get reorders or
yeah,
potential reorders, they're just like, yeah, no, we're done.
yeah. No, you're probably right. And I mean, eh, again, this doesn't come as a surprise to people in the industry. I mean, everyone knows that we're moving away from 3 degrees of freedom headsets and more into 6 degrees of freedom, especially with Oculus. With
Mhm.
the release of the Quest, they've proven that they can do a standalone headset that has the full capabilities of motion tracked controls and all of that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that they're doing it. And if you recall, like I think around Thanksgiving here in the US, there was there were like deep sales on Oculus Go. So like I had a lot of people reaching out to me asking if they should buy one because they were dirt cheap and all of that. And I mean,
Mhm.
my recommendation was no at that
Yeah.
time. So it,
I mean,
it
if you're
not,
gonna throw down for VR, and sorry to cut you off, but if you're gonna throw
yeah,
down money for VR, and again, $200 difference between the Go and the Quest, of course, people enter into different price points, but if you're gonna come in like just the value of experience
mhm,
and the vast difference of experience between both of them, there's no question, and like you said, no surprise.
yeah. And I mean that apparently there are people out there that care a lot about like 360 video. And I mean,
Mhm.
you can use the Oculus Go for like video playback and that kind of thing. I don't know if big screen is compatible on it or if you're just using like the Oculus native app to run videos and stuff. But my understanding is it's a pretty like I know Damon has a Go and he was using it a lot for like just video watching and stuff like that. So I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if these things are going to be like super deep discounted. Like if someone is kind of interested and just wants to pick one up for like $50 or something at some point, like maybe it's interesting. But yeah, I think like you were saying, if you're gonna put down, closer to $200 or so, my recommendation has always kind of been to just, go and try to get your hands on a Quest. But
Yeah, no, it didn't make sense to me. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I said it in that. I was thinking something else.
Yeah,
It makes sense to me that they would discontinue. It wouldn't make sense for them to have this as a long-term play, is what I
yeah,
was trying to get at, right? Like,
yeah.
there just doesn't seem to be a need for this intermediary anymore,
Yep.
especially when something like the Samsung Gear VR exists, right?
Hmm.
And again, like people will try
Well,
to.
and that was discontinued too, like
Oh,
before this.
true,
So
true. Actually, yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, okay, I still stand by my comment. I mean, it's just if you want to experience VR, I think that there will be other intermediate or smaller off-brand headsets or contraptions you can buy using your phone to watch those types of
yeah,
experiences.
yep,
But at this point, to me, with I'm sure the amount of labor, resources, manpower, all that just to keep the going, no pun intended. Just I think it's probably more prudent for Oculus to be focusing those resources elsewhere.
yeah. No, and I mean it was for what it was. I mean, it was a well produced product. Like I know a lot of people say that it they feel like it was more comfortable than the Quest. I don't know if that's just because the Quest has more stuff inside of it. It's like heavier, but so it did have some strengths to it. But at the end of the day, especially with I was just thinking the addition of hand tracking. I think a lot of people are kind of assuming that cheap versions of the Quest going into the future will kind of be lightened, maybe even controller free versions of the Quest for like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the way to go either. Like, as far as I'd still recommend getting something that offers the whole experience, but just like if they were going to want to fit something into that $100 to $200 price point, it might be something like an entry level, like buy a Quest without controllers and buy the controllers later kind of thing, rather than like a separate device. But I don't know if they're
Yeah.
going to go
Well,
that
I
route.
mean, if they offer the Quest without controllers, if the hand tracking gets her, like you were saying, that'd be an interesting
Yeah,
little wrinkle.
I
But
mean, just for the media playback. I'm not saying for
yeah,
like awesome
I
game experiences or anything like
I don't
that.
know.
But
I mean, I just and again, I know $200 is not an insignificant amount of money for people, but it's to me it didn't really make sense to have that as an intermediary, right? Like
yeah,
for the people who would be interested in VR, I can't imagine somebody being like, yeah, I think I'll go for a Go rather than being like, I'd rather save up for another couple of months or a year to get, you know what I mean, whatever the
yeah,
case would be, to get the Quest. So
yeah.
not a surprise, but like you said, it did come a little abruptly. So if you want to go, you will have to probably look in for
I,
secondhand off market.
I was waiting for you to say go again in that
I know,
sentence.
I know. I
It
was
was
like,
so tempting, but
I was gonna try to
again,
avoid the pun there.
yeah.
All right, so okay, well, let's move on. I think this is probably our biggest news of the week, and that is Ready at Dawn. Now,
Hmm.
they are the studio behind Lone Echo, and the upcoming Lone Echo 2
Hmm.
has been acquired by guess who, Ronnie?
Um, HTC.
Oh, you wish. No, no, they've been acquired by
Oculus.
Oculus, and
Yeah,
this is not
Facebook.
the first time. Yeah, Facebook and Oculus, and this is not the first time we've had this conversation about. It just seems like Oculus is scooping up these different studios left and right. So they acquire the VR studio. This is a TechCrunch article just to get a little bit more details. But what are your thoughts on this? Not necessarily a surprise. It's
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like it's cool to see Facebook continuing to invest.
Hmm.
um and yeah, I mean, I think we've been down this road before with previous conversations. Will future things be a Oculus exclusive? Will they continue to be Oculus exclusive? How does that work? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But what are your thoughts overall on this?
Yeah, so I mean, my initial thoughts are it's a good thing for the VR industry, mainly because I mean, up until this point, all of the VR titles that Ready at Dawn had put out, they were all Oculus exclusives, anyways. So they weren't making any titles that were that were available on Steam or anything like that. I'm
Mhm.
I'm sure that was all like publishing deals and stuff like that that they already had with Facebook and Oculus. So really, like from a VR landscape perspective, it really doesn't change a whole lot as far as accessibility to Ready at Dawn's VR titles are concerned. Really, the main thing is that this ensures that Ready at Dawn will continue to make VR titles because I
Yeah.
mean, as a developer, I mean, really, what I knew them for previously, they had released, they had started out, I think, developing games on the PlayStation Portable, like the original PSP system,
Mm-hmm.
and there were some really like good technically savvy games on that platform, like Daxter and God of War: Chains of Olympus. I'm looking at Wikipedia right now just to remember some of the stuff they put out originally. And they did have kind of a brief stint. They released The Order 1886, which is a PlayStation 4 title that I don't remember exactly how well it was received, but I know at the time, I mean, it looked amazing. And I know people were really kind of excited about the game prior to its release. So really, like, up until that point, they had been working, on those other systems. And then since then, I mean, basically in 2017-ish, they developed Lone Echo for the Oculus Rift. And since then, they've just been all hands on deck on VR titles. So
Yeah.
Echo Arena came out on the Rift, and eventually it was ported over to the Quest, and it's technically still in beta there right now. But it'll eventually. I know it's been really successful on the Quest, and we've talked about
I
our
mean, we've talked about
experience.
it on the podcast, and it's a
Yeah,
fantastic game. I mean, yeah. So
and Lone Echo itself was an amazing, like narrative driven VR title,
mhm.
and they're working on Lone Echo 2, which is set to come out supposedly sometime this year. So, I mean, yeah, they really have proven themselves to be a really strong contributor to the VR, kind of double triple
Absolutely.
A type
Yeah.
games. So yeah. So I mean, is it a bummer that we won't see their games kind of natively support other systems like the Index? And yeah, sure, but they weren't really in that line of work previously, anyways.
Mhm.
So for me, I just think that this is a huge win for that team, and it's a huge win. I mean, they clearly see a future, and their future being in VR. If they were going to, if they were going to bite Facebook's Facebook's offer. So
Yeah. Well, the flip side of this too is obviously Facebook is invested in Oculus, or sorry, in the VR space through Oculus, but Facebook has not been very, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're not secretly trying. Sorry, they're not so secretly trying to get into the gaming side of things too, right? With Facebook Gaming trying to be a rival to Twitch,
yeah,
so like you were saying, Ready at Dawn has a slew of titles that were pre VR.
hmm
And so if they continue and now have the resources to really kind of expand all across to create both VR and non-VR titles,
yeah, it's true.
this could be Facebook's play into acquiring a really talented team
Yeah,
to create a wealth of content across different platforms for them.
yeah,
So
and they clearly have a strong relationship with them, and it kind of reminds. I mean,
absolutely,
you
yeah.
see you see another studio, bigger studio than Ready at Dawn, but like similar situation was Insomniac Games.
Mhm.
They were and still are making a lot of awesome VR titles for the Oculus platform, but they got snatched up by Sony. So
Mhm.
and it was fascinating to me that occurred, probably mainly because they produced an amazing PlayStation 4 title in Spider-Man.
Mhm.
And so and they obviously have a background on a lot of amazing Sony PlayStation games, like Ratchet and Clank is the big one that comes to mind. But in general, like I said, that's a studio that they had some kind of a relationship with Oculus, of course. But they've also had a relationship built over the years with Sony, and Sony snatched them up. To me, this is kind of a Ready at Dawn clearly has a good relationship with Facebook, and
Yeah.
basically the two parties decided to take it to the next level. So
Yeah, I mean, again, good news. I think from an
and,
absolutist standpoint, it's
and it
it's
is
good news for
both.
VR. So
Yeah, I did read also that, I mean, this is usually how it always goes, at least at the beginning, anyways. But I mean, they were pretty adamant about saying it was still going to be kind of a standalone independent, like even though it's owned by Facebook, that it's not going to in any way, kind of change the type of development that they were doing. So
mhm. Yeah, well, so one of the things that I was reading in the article, which I think is just important to point out now, um, here the studio will operate independently out of their Irvine, California, and Portland, Oregon offices.
Hmm.
So y- okay, let's be real for a minute. Facebook uh, has been known to be a little controlling.
That's what I was.
So well, I'll take that statement there as a with a grain of salt. But I think it is in Facebook's best interest, at least at this point, this early on. This team knows what they're doing. They've
Mhm.
created fantastic content material and games. So I would hope that they will be able to operate with that type of freedom to really innovate within the space and
Yeah.
innovate within VR. So
I mean, I can only
yeah.
imagine. Like, I would assume. I don't know what kind of budgetary restrictions they had when Oculus was obviously helping to publish their games, but
Yeah.
hopefully this will give them even more resources to build even bigger and awesomer experiences. So,
Yeah. Agreed. All right, cool. So let's move on now to, and I think you and I were talking before. This is not necessarily the topic we want to give full commentary on because I feel like there's so much here, and it's also a lot of speculation.
mhm.
But there was this really fascinating article that came out which talked about kind of the recent history. I want to say like
Mhm.
2015 through 2015
Yeah,
through now,
that's right.
of Apple's AR and VR projects. And so this was an article on Bloomberg, and I'm just going to share it here so folks can see what to look for. But Ronnie, you and I have been talking about Apple. You and I are both iPhone users.
Mhm.
I have a bunch of different Apple products. I'm really within their ecosystem. So that being said, and it being very obvious, also known that I am a VR enthusiast, I am excited to say the very, very least about what they have planned, and especially stuff that we've heard previously. And I want to say a couple months ago, there was another article that came out talking about glasses coming out by 2022. But the main takeaway from there is that they wanted these glasses to replace your smartphone, right? So we're
Mhm.
talking about some seriously powerful devices here, but powerful and portable.
Mhm.
So there was a lot to unpack in this article. I don't know that this episode would be the best to do it. Maybe we can do a special episode kind of diving into this further. But
Yep.
but let's just briefly talk about this. We want to bring it up to you guys, just to bring it to your attention because I feel like it wasn't necessarily as out there with all the other news, both VR and non-VR news that's happening in the world right now. But what were some of your main takeaways from this, Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, my main takeaways were I thought it was really fascinating that at one point they were really aiming to, in my opinion, make a headset that competed more with like PC VR. So the
Mhm.
highest end of VR that we have, and it would have been fully wireless. It would have kind of connected wirelessly to a base station, more or less like a. I mean, they're saying similar to like a Mac Mini or something
Mhm.
sized device, and that it would allow whatever it was that they were working on to really push beyond, current state VR.
Yeah.
So I don't know much more details than that.
Yeah,
Um,
and
but
the
then,
article was super dense. So like,
yeah,
we highly encourage folks to go
yeah.
and read it.
But
But
so
yeah.
that was it's interesting to me that they were looking at that approach early on. But to me, it sounds like what has me kind of fascinated, like you were saying, it sounds like there's really two products that they may or may not still be working on right now, which it sounds like one is going to be more of a VR all-in-one type device similar to the Quest, and the
Mhm.
other would be, like you said, the glasses, like the Apple glasses, more AR focused type device that would come a bit later, which makes sense to me. It makes sense that you would be able to make more of a VR type device earlier and that the AR device would come a little bit later just because of
Yeah.
the technological challenges around that. But yeah, like that part of it was a little bit unclear to me just because it did sound like there were some challenges within the company as to whether they really wanted to push a VR um, type of experience that's going to be kind of all encompassing for users. But
Mhm.
but yeah, that, I mean, regardless, it's definitely been a major project at the company, and it
Yeah.
sounds like they have a lot invested in this idea, like not just money, but also just in terms of like, it doesn't sound like they want another failure slash like kind of complete pivot like they did with. It sounds like they did with some of the car, uh, the Tesla
Hmm.
type
Yeah.
competitors. Like they obviously were thinking they were going to make electric cars, it sounds like, and then kind of shifted more towards autonomous
Autonomous vehicles.
driving.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with this, it's kind of the pressure's on, like, can these R&D departments in Apple deliver on new products that will really bring to the table the kind of success that they've had in the past with products like the iPhone or even AirPods now, which
Yeah.
I think have been pretty successful. So we'll
Yeah.
have to wait and see. One thing I did, I don't know, I don't think it was this article. It wasn't. I think it was
Oh, you had something
actually.
else.
So I actually think this was like a take from Lucas Risotto, or Rosado. He is one of the developers from Where Thoughts. He was the developer behind Where Thoughts Go, and someone that we've interviewed on the show before.
Hmm.
But I read an article that he had put out on his own, like a Medium blog, a while back, and he just kind of laid out the fact that, unlike you know really any other company, kind of like what you were saying, the fact that Apple already has a strong, computer in the form of a phone that's in your pocket, already has these seamless earphones that you put in your ears and can have 3D spatial audio and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Just the fact that you have a watch on your hand that
Is
could
this the one?
potentially, um,
Because this is from a year, like a year and a
yeah,
half ago
I
almost.
think this is what it was. But he was linking to it, and I read it again, and
Okay.
it just made me realize, like, oh yeah, of course, like when it's time for them to kind of put out Google Glasses or whatever it is, this is one device that's going to be potentially connecting to all of these other devices that you'll already be using from
Yeah.
Apple, and really like the type of VR/AR experience that they'll be able to provide with all of these technologies working together is really something special. Like, think of what it costs, Facebook, for example, to give you an all-in-one where, you don't have Facebook earphones, you don't have a Facebook phone, you don't have Facebook anything, and they kind of have to package everything that you're going to be using for your experience into this device that they're selling you. Apple has the unique advantage where whatever they end up releasing, they can kind of combine with a lot of the products you already own as part of their ecosystem to make this experience like that much more enveloping to you. So
Yeah.
I just think that's a really, really interesting take on Apple's
Yeah. Oh,
opportunity in the
yep.
space.
I was just kind of skimming through. I'll make sure we share this through. But yeah, so it's Lucas Rosado, and on his Medium blog. But yeah,
Yeah. Anyways, I just thought that was interesting. So
cool. Okay, well, two different things from Apple.
yeah.
Yeah, so we'll dive into this more because I think Ronnie and I are both very interested to see what Apple has up its sleeve. And we've spoken about this before, but Apple isn't necessarily the first to a space, but they definitely like to come in and dominate the space once they are there. Now, I don't know, it's hard to say because I wasn't into watches and I wasn't necessarily into smartphones before the iPhone and the Apple Watch or the AirPods that came out. But it seems as though there is a lot of development already pre-Apple in the
Hmm.
space, and a
Hmm.
lot of big players in the space when it comes to Facebook and Sony. So, how Apple approaches it will be very interesting to me. And I think the big thing to watch with Apple, and even this article from Lucas kind of reminded me of that, is just the simple fact that Apple isn't coming at this from a gaming perspective the way Sony or Facebook might. Apple, like they're trying to dominate your entire life using their products, right? And I think the key takeaway from what Lucas was writing in his article was that they're not trying to come up with the best headset. They're trying to come out with the final piece of the puzzle that connects all of your technology together. So, I'm still endlessly fascinated with what they have. You and I are probably going to speculate quite a bit more as more information comes out. But
Mhm.
as the initial article I shared pointed out, there's an all hands on deck meeting last fall talking about a potential announcement next year, 2021, for a release of a headset in 2022, followed by some type of AR glasses in 2023. So that's where we're at right now.
Mhm.
Um, Still far out. A lot can change before then, but it could be here before you know it.
Yeah, no, it's
So,
super exciting. Like you were saying, I mean, I can't wait to see what they kind of
mhm.
produce out of this project, and also definitely it'd be something to look forward to as far as like
Yeah.
we already have a lot of other Apple devices, so kind of fitting one piece into the puzzle might
Mhm.
be very, very compelling.
Yeah. Cool, man. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. I think we just want to let everyone know your friendly VR reminder, friendly everything virtual reminder that the Steam Summer Sale is going on right now. And to be completely honest with you, Ronnie, I don't know about yourself, but I have not had a chance to look through.
Yeah, no,
Look through it
I
yet.
picked up a couple of random things, but I haven't like delved deep into the VR stuff. I mean, honestly, I think these Steam sales are
There
a
we go.
great opportunity to Google like top VR
Mm-hmm.
games lists,
Yeah.
and because at this point there's such a backlog of games. I mean, really, even titles that we were recommending 2 or 3 years ago as best titles back then,
Mm-hmm.
if you're new to VR and you don't own some of those early VR titles that are amazing, like these
Yeah.
Steam sales are a great time to kind of put together a list of games that you might be interested in picking up, and then just going on the Steam sale and seeing
Yeah.
what
You could probably
what
scoop them
they're
up for
there
super
for.
cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And so
and that's the one nice thing about Steam, does its VR sales so much, better and kind of more deep than Oculus. Just as far as like the Oculus, most of the Oculus sales are just a little bit off the top here or there.
yeah.
They'll try to bundle certain, but Steam games, I mean, for those that are kind of new to the
I mean,
ecosystem,
there's stuff up like 70% off certain games.
yeah. So
So
so it's a game changer. Like you can really pick up, like 10 games where you would have otherwise only picked up one or two. So
mm, hold on, let's see if we can go on and just maybe take a little peek. But so this will be running through July 9th, today, which we're recording this on Thursday, the June 25th, through July 9th. And I'm just curious, since we're on here, if we can see anything that maybe we can just give our quick thoughts on. So
yeah.
I mean, well, Half-Life Alex is already 25% off. So
See,
that's
and Boneworks is 20%, which I
Boneworks is
know.
20%.
So those three
Pavlov is
titles,
40%.
even
Skyrim is 70%
yeah,
off. Yeah. So I
uh,
mean, yeah,
yeah,
I think folks, if there's older games that you want to get into, here's Fallout at 70% off. If there's older games, it's definitely worth digging through. I know there's a ton of stuff on Steam, and it can feel a little bit overwhelming with all the games that have come out over the past 4 years, but
yep,
there's definitely some gems in there that you could pick up for pennies on the dollar.
totally agree.
Cool. All right. Well, Ronnie, maybe you and I will do an episode where we can talk about some of our top items that we saw in the Steam store. But yeah, dude, man, I wish I could get Arizona Sunshine for $15. That's awesome.
Yeah, even Gorn for $10, like, which is
Yeah.
a really awesome title.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
there's honestly, like I said, for people like us that have so many games,
mhm.
sometimes it becomes repetitive year after year when but like for people that haven't, that have fresh libraries to fill,
Mhm.
man, like honestly, this is by far the best time to make up for that lost time.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, man. Well, you have a great weekend. For everybody listening, make sure you guys have a safe and awesome weekend. And Ronnie, we'll get back to game talk at some point. Hopefully,
So,
hopefully this upcoming week. I will.
sounds good. Knock on wood.
I will. I have a little family thing tomorrow, so I am going to bring my Quest and see if I can. Well, you know what? That's the thing. I mean, I may not have as much of a chance to jump in, but some of my cousins are super big into Star Wars, and they're a little
Ooh.
they're old. They're a little bit older than me, so like they're not necessarily into VR. So I think this will be awesome for them.
Oh yeah, that'll be, man, especially if they haven't tried it yet. That's gonna be like mind blowing to them.
Yeah. So they tried. If you remember the original Star, one of them tried the original Star Wars. demo that came out.
Yeah, I remember, but that was so limited compared
Super
to what.
basic. Yeah, I mean, I want to see their reaction when they're in the room fighting with Vader.
Dude, that's exciting. That'll be really cool.
Yeah. All right, man. Fun times. Everybody stay safe. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you all very, very